focus on not the day-to-day experience, but a very special day experience, which is, as you may have noticed from the email that I sent out earlier today, it's the experience of Shabbat. It's a once-a-week holiday that we all have the opportunity to partake in and enjoy. I think Shabbat sometimes gets a bad rap. Sometimes people think that it's all about the restrictions. You can't do this and you have to do that. And the truth is, it's no more restrictive than your GPS, whether it's Google Maps or Waze, right? Who uses Waze? Any Wazers? Yes? Wave if you Waze. Look at that. Right? So it's no different than if the voice on the GPS, that voice coming down from the heavens, tells you make a left. Is that restrictive? Oh, who are you to tell me what to do? Who are you? What if I want to go right? Knock yourself out. But if you want to go where you want to, if you want to get to your destination, make a left. In other words, is that a restriction? It's not a restriction. If the GPS tells you make a left, it's not a restriction. It's called guidance. It's called direction. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. So, someone says, oh, you're telling me what to do and what I can't do. Ugh, what a miserable experience. Not that any of you said this. I'm just saying, if somebody thinks that maybe this is some Shabbat, energy, some restrictive energy, we need to remember. And it's a very important point to remember. We must remember that these so-called restrictions are the most liberating of all. Now, Shabbat is absolutely critical to human well-being. I know it's a bold statement, but there it is. The world has been conditioned pretty much from the beginning to be all about work, work, work. Productivity, accomplishment. Yeah, we meet people at parties or at events or on the street. The first thing we say is, so what do you do? What do you do? What a chutzpah. What do you mean, what do I do? How about who am I? How about who are you instead of what do you do? What kind of question is that? What do I do? That doesn't define me. I turn cogs. Yeah, on an assembly line. So now you know me. Why are you asking me what do I do? So it's interesting. I'm giving you that one example to kind of highlight how we may not even be aware of this, but we value ourselves and others based on what we do, based on productivity. And it's a lousy metric. It's a lousy metric because no one is what they do. You are much greater than what you do. You're much purer than what you do. You're much more beautiful than what you do, no matter what you do, right? Does that define you? That's a piece of you. It's a piece of what you're doing, but that's not your essence. So on Shabbat, we have the opportunity to stop doing and start being, right? We stop the doing and we start the being. We relate to ourselves as beings and not doings. Sorry, I'm going to make up words here. Don't worry. I have creative license. I got the official document. We move from doers, not the doers, the other doers, the D-O, not that one, not the mashke. We go from doers to beers. We're no longer defined by our actions. We're no longer defined by our vocations. We're no longer defined by our output. You are valuable because of you. And I'm valuable because of I. We're defined by our inherent essential values on Shabbat. Shabbat is so tremendously healthy in a world that pushes us to be ever more productive. Show me the money. What are you bringing home today? Right? What's your value? Your value is tied into your output. That's the world we live in, right? And, it's good to have output. It's good to accomplish. Wonderful. That's for another discussion. If we were talking about the 6 days of the week, that would be the focus of that class. But this is Shabbat. This is rest. This is the art of restfulness. You should know. I have spoken to experts on this. If you are a top archer, right? Archer, like archery? Not archer bunker. I'm kidding. I know it's Archie Bunker. That's something else. If you're a top, right? What was that? All in the Family? Was that called All in the Family? Am I getting it right? All right. Little term TBT Tuesday. Turn back time Tuesday. We're playing all the oldies. Okay, here's the deal. Here's the deal, folks. If you want to be a top archer, you know what the most critical step is? It's how steady you rest before you let the arrow go. Is it called a quiver or an arrow? Am I wrong here? Is it called a quiver? David, are you pulling something out of you're ready to go? You're like, you've got it? All right.
That's the quiver. The quiver is what your back holds the arrow.
Oh, the quiver. All right. Thank you. So listen, I caught on to your miming. I just didn't interpret it correctly because I wasn't sure. Okay, good. Listen, I always look at these classes as crowdsourced, right? It takes a village. That's what we're doing. This is a village. Okay, here's the deal. You take the arrow, you pull the thing. I'm assuming it's called the bow, right? Bow and arrow. So I'm just gonna throw that to that piece. You pull it back. You get the tension going. If you're all over the place, if you're not at rest, if you're not centered, if you're not focused, if you're not calm, if you're moving around, guess what? Nope, not happening. That bullseye is not getting struck. The only way to do it is shoot first, aim later. That's the only way you're getting around the bullseye. If you fire and then draw the bullseye around wherever it landed. That's the only way you're going to get there. Otherwise, you ain't hitting it. If you're moving around, if you're jostling, if you're nervous, if you're, I'm doing, not happening. The key to precision, the key to effectively targeting and getting to where we want to go is understanding how to be at rest. Shabbat is not passive rest. It's active rest. Shabbat is an active state of centering, connecting, right? Meditating, returning to self, seeing the other, being a part of truth. And now we can head on to the rest of the week. So, here's the deal. Shabbat is key. You should know. People have told me. People have asked me, do we need Shabbat now that we have COVID? I know it's a weird question, but if we're at home anyway, and we're kind of not really working, let's say, right? So what's Shabbat? Interesting question. I want to share with you an interesting insight from Torah itself. So we know that the Jewish people were commanded about Shabbat multiple times. They were commanded. I'm moving around to make sure the screen is a little bit brighter. Okay, we were commanded about Shabbat. We got the mitzvah of Shabbat. The commentators are wondering, why 2 commandments of Shabbat? And there's a fascinating answer that I want to share with you. Who gave this answer? I have it in my notes. This answer is given by Rabbi Moshe of Trani, who says that in Egypt you needed Shabbat because you were working, you were a slave. Of course you need Shabbat. It's a blessing. To have Shabbat, one day off, when you're dealing with slave labor, that's a blessing. But in the desert, what did the Jews do in the desert? What was their vocation? Garnished. Nothing.
They were wanderers.
We say wanderers?
Yeah, they were wandering around. That was their vocation.
That's it. They were wanderers. They didn't have GPS. Let's put it that way. They weren't following instructions. GPS stands for God's positioning system. They weren't following the orders. Cloud computing navigation wasn't working. Bottom line is,
well, they were following the cloud.
They were following the cloud. Here's the deal. They didn't have day jobs. They didn't work for a living. They weren't accountants. They weren't lawyers. I know, you're thinking no Jewish accountants and lawyers. What is this? Right? No doctors. Yeah. No entrepreneurs. Correct. Exactly. Right. Everyone just was. So you might think in that state, maybe you don't need Shabbat. Maybe Shabbat's for Egypt when you're working. But in the desert, you don't need Shabbat. God says no. In the desert, 10 commandments, God gives us Shabbat. Who needs Shabbat? Who's working anyway? We're not working. What do you need Shabbat now? Yeah, in Egypt, we need Shabbat. Now, who needs Shabbat? Who's working? It's a day of rest always. 7 days a week. Because Shabbat is not just rest. It's not just passive rest. I didn't go to work today, it's Shabbat. No. Shabbat is an active state of connection. connecting with truth, connecting with family, connecting with self, connecting with soul, connecting with community, connecting with God. Shabbat is an active day. There's so many different layers to Shabbat. The absence of work is just but one of the layers. It's an important layer. It helps create the context, but there's so much more depth there. So tonight, the goal is to go through Shabbat. We're actually going to do this in two parts, this week and next week. Next week is our part 2 of Shabbat. So we're not done. We're not going to close this out fully tonight. So let me tell you what we're going to cover this week and what we're going to cover next week. So this week we're going to look at how to prepare for Shabbat, which is very important. How to get all prepped and set for Shabbat. That's like a lot of fun. So we'll get into that. And the second part of tonight is going to talk about the Friday night experience. So prep and Friday night. And then next week we'll speak about work on Shabbat, like what's work and what's not work on Shabbat. And the Shabbat day experience up and through and including the Havdalah when we close Shabbat out. So prep and Friday night is today, or tonight's topic. Next week will be the work on Shabbat, what's considered work on Shabbat, and the day of Shabbat. So that's the outline. Make sense so far? Yes? Okay, I'm sure you've seen the memes. You cannot not see the memes where people are joking like they don't even know what day it is. Have you heard people say that? It's like, oh my gosh, it's like Thur Wednesday. Or some
Well, I tell people the only reason I know what day of the week it is because my iPad tells me so.
Exactly. So I want to share with you something about that. In the Jewish tradition, we center the week around Shabbat. I know it's a weird expression. Mixing metaphors, right? Center the week around Shabbat. Shabbat's at the end of the week. What kind of centering? Do you know what centering means? I know what centering means. Even though it's the 7th day of the week, it's the end of the week. But the whole week revolves around Shabbat. If you're familiar with the liturgy, there's a song of the day for each day. And every day we say, Hayom Yom Rishon L'Shabbat. Hayom Yom Sheni L'Shabbat. Sunday is not called Sunday. It's called the first day to Shabbat. And Monday is not Monday. It's called the second day on the road to Shabbat. All of the days are defined by their relationship to Shabbat, which means that if you're living the Jewish loka, whatever. I told you TBT Tuesday. This is happening. We're going through the eras. We're going through the decades. Bottom line is, if you're living the Shabbat life, you're living it every day. Sunday is Sunday of Shabbat. Monday is Monday of Shabbat. Tuesday is Tuesday of Shabbat. And as you get closer, things get all the more exciting. So, Shabbat is a good way to keep track of the days because each day we are getting another step closer to Shabbat. So let's talk about Shabbat preparations and why it is that you need to prepare. Like, what is this business preparing for Shabbat? Just enjoy Shabbat. What's this preparation business for? Who needs preparation? Okay, let me explain why preparation on Shabbat is really important. Oh, and by the way, if you have the PDFs that I sent, did you guys receive the email? Well, you found me on Zoom in the Zoomosphere, so I'm pretty sure you got the email because otherwise you would have no idea where I was. So if you can, please open up the PDF. I sent you 2 PDFs. One is of kind of an outline of tonight's class, and you'll see how much I deviate from the outline that JLI put together. So, because I like to always mix things up a little bit. So feel free to compare and contrast. Although, don't spend your time like analyzing that. I think it's more important to, to engage in the material itself. But there's also a second document that has texts for discussion, or text some of the text that we might cover. So here is the deal. Why is preparation important? So preparation is important because on Shabbat there's a lot of things that we are not supposed to do. Because it's less about doing and more about being. It's less about creating and more about enjoying. That's what Shabbat is about. So a lot of the stuff that you might need on Shabbat, you're meant to do it before Shabbat, and that way you don't need to do it on Shabbat, right? Because you do it before, and now you get to enjoy it, right? Who wants to do the work on Shabbat, right? So there's a lot of prep, not a lot, whatever, the prep that's done for Shabbat much of it constitutes things that otherwise we're not supposed to do on Shabbat because we're not meant to be doing. So you got to do it. If you want it done, right, you got to do it. So one easy example is cooking. On Shabbat, we're not supposed to cook. Why not? We'll talk about that next week. But Shabbat, we don't cook. We don't bake. We don't cook. All right. Grill, frying, sauteing, all the above, right? So all the synonyms of cooking, we don't do. So if you want to eat on Shabbat, what's the answer? Takeout. I'm kidding. Or preparing, also, nothing wrong with that, but also the way to do it is cook before Shabbat. Done. Easy peasy. By the way, this is going to be a theme I'm going to come back to. I was thinking to introduce it a little bit later in the conversation, but let me do it right now. Imagine you're having very important guests over at your house for a meal. Forget Shabbat. Don't forget Shabbat, but for right now, forget Shabbat. You're having people over. Let's say you work in a company and the boss is coming over. The boss and the boss's wife or the boss's spouse, whatever. So the boss and the boss's spouse are coming over your house. Great. Mazel tov. You're going to wait till they're there to cook? You're going to start cooking once they arrive at your house? Hey, welcome, come on in. I'm going to start cooking the meal now. No. You're going to cook it beforehand. You're going to have it ready. You're going to have the table set. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I just want to use this as an example. Keep this in mind. Shabbat is amazing. Shabbat is beautiful. We talk about the Shabbat queen. Shabbat is our honored guest that we welcome in one day a week. And like an honored guest, you prepare for your guests. You get your house ready, right? You get everything ready, everything set. That's it. Gesundheit, that you won't be able to do on Shabbat, like cooking, so we do that before. There's also other elements of preparation. Making your home look nice. Cleaning, right? Preparing, setting, personal, getting ready personally, which will, again, we're going to go through all these in detail, kind of giving you the overview. So because Shabbat is such a special guest, therefore, what we do is we get ready. Again, if you're having honored guests to your home, you're going to take a little bit of time and make your home look even more beautiful. Set the table, more sparkling, more beautiful, in anticipation of your guests. So again, Shabbat is the same thing. And it's not, I don't mean, by the way, don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm not saying if you have guests Friday night to your home, then do all these things. No. Shabbat is your guest. You don't need any people in your home to do this. Shabbat is your guest. Shabbat is your honored guest. So make it count. Okay. Now, let's talk about, this is great. I'm going to pull up a PDF. Let's see. Again, I'm using a different computer. Always fun. Let's see how this works. Bam, bam, bam. Let's see if I can open this up somewhere else. There's some other way. Folks, give me just a moment. Uno momento. Okay. I'm going to share a screen. Hang on tight. Again, if you have the PDF, you can feel free to open it up, but just in case, I feel like it's always safer. To share the screen. Where is it? Okay, let's see if this works. Tell me if you guys can see my screen. Yeah? You see the PDF? Beautiful. Look at that. It works. Let's jump right in. Okay, beautiful. Thank you all. Text 1. I love text 1 from the Talmud. Let's see if we can make it even bigger here. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh, so nice and center. Okay, Talmud Shabbat. This is beautiful. Look at what's going on here. These are the greatest of the greatest sages. All right, take a look. Rav Avahu, used to sit on an ivory stool and fan the fire to cook for Shabbat. Back in the day, before appliances. Rav Anan would put on a black smock while he prepared for Shabbat. Like, kiss the cook? You know what I'm talking about? Like the aprons? Yeah? Alright, maybe he didn't say that. Rav Safra would singe the head of the animal for the Shabbat meal. No, it's not singe the head of the... he would prepare, smoke some meat for Shabbat. Rava salted shibuta, fish, for the Shabbat meal. Rav Huna would light lamps in honor of Shabbat. Rav Papa plated the wicks for the lamp. Plated the wicks. I think that's braiding. Is plated there braiding? Plait? Plate? Braid?
Yes, sort of like a Havdalah candle.
Got it, okay. Rav Chista cut up the beetroots. Oh, you gotta have beetroots. Beetroots are fantastic. Rabbi and Rav Yosef chopped wood. Rav Zera kindled the fire. Not in the same household, by the way, each in their own. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, it sounds like a collaborative. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak carried items into his home and removed items from his home, saying, if Rav Ami and Rav Asi visited me, would I not carry things in their honor? He wasn't just carrying things back and forth. He was, getting things set. Imagine you have very, very, very special company coming in. Imagine the head of the company from headquarters in a different state is coming to your house for dinner. Oh boy, you're taking stuff in, you're taking stuff out. Are you kidding me? It's gewaldic. Folks, hold on 1 second. Hold on. Hello? Not sure. I got a phone call from Dina. Give me 1 second. Let me just check the other broadcast.
I think he needs a whole AV control room.
So class is just over.
Oh, so Dina's class is just over with? Is that what
Yes.
you're saying, Catherine?
Yes.
Okay.
He's probably trying to log out correctly and save it.
David, you are right. I just ended that other meeting. All right, good. All right, it sounded like I needed to get on something, and that's what it was, just to end the meeting. Okay, let's jump right back in. So again, if you had very important company coming over, you're going to move stuff around. You're going to move a table. You're going to move chairs, furniture. You're going to take stuff out that doesn't need to be in your house. You're going to bring stuff in. You move stuff around. So that's some of what the great sages, these were not people that didn't have people that could help. I'm going to say that one more time. Hopefully it comes out clear, right? These are all people that could have many other people help them, with what they needed to do for Shabbat. They did it themselves. You know why? Because it's an honor to prepare for Shabbat. It's an absolute honor and it's a privilege to prepare for Shabbat. It's not a burden. It's not, I got to prepare for Shabbat. No, it's a beauty. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. That's what these rabbis were doing. So we're meant to be talking about preparation for Shabbat. Let's get back. We can stop the screen share for a second. Hey, Sandrine, good to see you. Welcome. So, look, when are we meant to prepare for Shabbat? So many think, Thursday night, Friday. Here's what I want to tell you: preparation for Shabbat begins Sunday. There's a beautiful story that the Talmud tells about individuals who were always preparing for Shabbat the whole week. The whole week, whenever they shopped, they looked for the nice stuff. And they said, if it's nice, I'm buying it for Shabbat. And if they found something better, so like, let's say you're at the marketplace, back in the day, and you see a good-looking fish. Not just a regular fish, like a good fish. Maybe a herring, whatever, a good fish. Maybe a stick salmon, like a piece of salmon. But a gesunter, like one of the good ones. Yeah, and so you say, this is going to be for Shabbat. You're living Shabbat the whole week. You're looking for stuff to buy for Shabbat. What a beautiful way to live. You're living in paradise the whole week. And then if the next day you find something better, forget it. You're buying the better stuff. That stuff I'll eat tonight. But the better stuff we're going to save for Shabbat. The whole week we're living with Shabbat. That's the way to do it, folks. That's the way to do it. The whole week live with Shabbat. So, I'm just looking at my notes. Be on the lookout for the good stuff. But the prep really kicks in Friday morning. Now, in my house, we try to get started Thursday evening. Thursday evening already, if we can get shopping in, sometimes it's easier at night. Kids are gone down. You can start cooking Thursday night. Sometimes I make my famous potato kugel and famous other dishes on Shabbat. By the way, right when COVID hit, right when everything shut down, if you recall, we did a cooking show. I did a cooking show Thursday nights called Cooking with Rabbi Ari. You remember that? By raise of hand, you remember seeing that? Okay. Some of you were on it, I know. Anyway, I'm going to say that...
Actually, in the Atlanta Jewish time, it still show your class, just so you know.
Awkwardly, it's still showing my class. All right, we need to reach out to them to let them know that... by the way, if people go to that link, they're going to go to the Tanya class. So I don't feel that bad.
Okay.
I don't feel that bad if they follow that link for Cooking with Rabbi Ari and they end up in Tanya. A little bait and switch never killed anybody. I'm just saying. I'm not above a little bait and switch. But I digress. Back to Cooking with Rabbi Ari. I'm just going to say this. I'm putting it out there. There's a lot of cooking stuff going on. I'm going to say that we were the first. It's not about the first bragging rights, but we were to get out there with the Shabbat cooking show. Charna was freezing up. Yeah, it's internet. What are you going to do? It's also like how I do the robot. Anyway, I'm not going to do that again. Sorry, my apologies. Now, getting back to this point. I know it's terrible. I know, Dr. Maxey. Getting back to this idea, because it's very important. Preparation for Shabbat begins, as early as possible. You can do it Thursday night. Traditionally, Friday morning. We wake up early Friday morning. We get whatever shopping that we needed to get done that we haven't done. We get that done. We begin cooking. I know you're thinking, well, what about work? Work can wait. So you get the shopping done. You get the cooking done. And then you work on the house. You get your house cleaned and prepped. Your table set, right? You got to get all this stuff going on. So if you want, there's a shopping list, Shabbat shopping list, in the back of your student handouts. Okay? So if you have this student handout, let me see. Let me find it because I have a copy of your student handout. Again, I'm not using my computer, so I don't have all my files, but I do have some of them. So let me see if you have that indeed. Can anyone confirm or deny? Please unmute yourself because I can't see you right now. Confirm or deny the shopping list. Yes?
No.
No?
Page
It's not.
11 and 12 on.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, it's in the handout.
Yes.
Yeah, but I
It's
mean,
on
we-
the Shabbat shopping
handout.
list. And
yeah, but do you mean can we see it on your share screen? Or
No, but I'm going to share right now. No, I meant is it in the handout, but
11 and 12.
I meant is it in the handout, but it's...
Kosher wine, 3 loaves of challah, salt, aromatic spices, siddur,
Yeah. All right, folks.
Abdallah,
Yeah.
fresh flowers.
Okay, here we go. Check this out. Here's a basic list, and you don't need to buy this every week because you can buy a lot of candles for the next little while. So candles, kosher wine or grape juice. By the way, I have not recently discovered, but I've been using, listen, I love supporting local. At the same time, there's some wines that you cannot get locally. There's a great website. Guess what its name is? kosherwine.com. I know, it's crazy like that. kosherwine.com. They have great prices, an incredible selection of kosher wine. I'm talking about incredible selection of kosher wine. Unparalleled selection of kosher wine. If you order by multiples of 12, or in multiples of 12, you get free shipping. I don't know if I can emphasize how, I don't know how they make this work, but there's free shipping. and it's pretty amazing. I don't work for them, and I don't get a commission, although Chabad Intown does get a commission, because they do give 5% of orders or some percentage back to nonprofits of your choice, charities of your choice. But the point is, there are different ways to get all of these things. You can get them, in person. You can get them locally. Again, I recommend buying local. I always recommend buying local. If you can't get it local, then you can certainly get it online, various places. So candles or tea lights. I'm gonna go through this list and give you my recommendations, because you can read the list, but the list here is not gonna have my recommendations. That's where this magic comes in right now between you and me. Candles or tea lights. Candles, get at your local store. Tea lights, you can get at your local store, or I know that IKEA, for example, has tea lights. You get a bag of 100 tea lights for super cheap. It's just a few bucks. I found it to be the most inexpensive way to buy tea lights from IKEA. Now, you may have to, you get the wax and you get the wick and you have to make it yourself. Fine. That's a joke, by the way. You may have to wade through the whole maze that is IKEA to find the tea lights at the end of the maze, but nonetheless, they have a great price. Kosher wine or grape juice, I told you my recommendations. They have it at Kosher Gourmet locally. They have it at Kroger, at the Kosher Publix. They have it at kosher, what do they call them? Not liquor stores.
Spicy peach.
Spicy peach, but what's it called? Package stores. That's what it is. Package stores. They have it.
They've got it at Toco Giant.
Toco Giant, yeah. Or again, kosherwine.com. 3 loaves of challah. 3 loaves of challah, because you're going to want to have a loaf for each of the meals. So that's why you want to have 3 loaves. Because you want to have 2 loaves for Friday night, but if you're eating one of them Friday night, then you need another 2 loaves Shabbat day, so you need a total of 3 to make that happen. Or, of course, if you don't have challah, you can use matzah or any type of rolls or whatever, just as long as it's a single unit, not a broken or cut piece. When you say the blessing, it should be whole. Salt to dip the challah, aromatic spices. By the way, we're going to talk about challah tonight. I'm going to text Leah at some point and ask her for the recipe, maybe even to come down and share, because she has an absolutely killer challah recipe that I'd love to be able to share with all y'all. Challah recipe, please. Okay, next, aromatic spices for the Havdalah, a prayer book or Shabbat table guide. Yes, you need the prayers. And if you want to enhance the experience, there you go. Fresh flowers, stylish candlesticks, a nice Kiddush cup, a nice challah cover, cutting board, and knife. All of these, Judaica Corner locally is a great, great, great source for all of these. Except for the fresh flowers. I don't think they sell the fresh flowers, but that you can get any florist or, Trader Joe's grocery store, Whole Foods. Pressed white tablecloth, fine dishware, glassware, flatware, napkins, a braided Havdalah candle. Again, these are your shopping list. The idea is to get that. Okay, that's another checklist. I'm going to end this. I'm going to stop sharing the screen and get back to be able to see everybody. Here's the point. There are things to shop for and to purchase so that you're ready for Shabbat, and it's part of the experience. The more we prepare for something, the more we are connected with it, and the more we are, spirit to spirit, part of that experience. Okay. By the way, I got the challah recipe. We are good to go. So hold on for that. That's coming soon. Next, challah. Literally, that's the next on my list of my notes. Let's talk about challah. So after shopping is done, by the way, we have a list in our family. I have pretty much a standard shopping list. I do kosher gourmet for the meat and chicken, and other stuff, fish. I do a Kroger, kosher kosher for other kosher items and fruits and vegetables and that sort of thing. You're doing a chicken soup, then there's this list. If you're doing this salad, it's that list. You get organized, and things become. Listen, nowadays you could do Instacart. You could do Shipt, SHIPT. It's another app that goes Kroger, Publix, Target. They do all these different stores. There are many ways to get what you need delivered to your house. I don't think there's yet Instacart or whatever it is to the kosher stores like Kosher Gourmet or Spicy Peach. Or we can have folks to hook you up. Now, let's talk about challah. There's a tradition to eat challah. We'll speak about that a little bit later, but let's talk about how to get challah. So you can buy challah, and you can buy it from fine local kosher establishments. like the aforementioned kosher gourmet or spicy peach. You can get it from Kroger or Publix. You can even get it from Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. I believe they carry challah that's kosher. So you can get challah from multiple places. But there is a special tradition, if possible, to make your own challah. Why? Because challah, although we call challah, refer to challah as the bread, challah actually refers to the mitzvah of separating challah, which you cannot do when you buy store-bought challah. Let me explain. There's a mitzvah in Torah, it's actually a biblical mitzvah, that when you prepare bread and you have a big dough, so you're supposed to separate part of the dough, take out a small piece of dough, and in ancient times, you were to give it to the Kohen, to the priest, as an acknowledgement of thanksgiving. In modern times, there's no temple and no temple priest, so we burn it ceremoniously. We burn it because we're not supposed to eat it. We're supposed to give it, but there's no one to get it, but we're not supposed to eat it, so what do you do with it? So we burn it. Again, it's a small piece. It's not like a big amount. It's just a very small piece. You only do it if you have a certain amount of dough. So not if you're making a small batch of challah, you wouldn't do it. If it's a large batch, then you would do it. I got an email earlier from Sandrine. Sandrine, I saw your email about the question is, should you make a large, if you're making challah, should you make a larger batch of dough and then separate the challah? Oh, I haven't explained that. So separate the challah, say the blessing, and then save the rest of the dough maybe for another time if you're not making it all, or should you just make whatever you need and then not have the mitzvah? It's a very good question. My thought is, I haven't looked it up, I didn't have a chance to look it up yet. My thought is to go big, to do the mitzvah, and then you save the rest. That's my thought, but I'll confirm or deny following the class. But what is the mitzvah of separating challah? Again, you make a large dough, you separate some of the challah, you burn it, and there's even a blessing that said when you take the challah, originally when you remove the challah, the small piece from the larger batch of dough, there's a blessing for that as well. The blessing is either in your texts or it's on Chabad.org. You can just Google it. Is it in the text? Somewhere?
Yes.
Okay, good. The blessing is there. Now, here's what I want to say. You could buy challah, and you can buy delicious challah, but you're not going to have a chance to do the mitzvah of challah. It may taste like challah, but you're not going to get the mitzvah. The mitzvah is the act of giving, the act of separating, taking from your own and dedicating it for something higher. Again, we don't have a temple, so we burn it in our own ovens, we char it, but the bottom line is there's a mitzvah there, and you don't get the mitzvah if you don't have dough. If you buy something already baked, then you don't do the mitzvah. So ideally, you make. It takes a little bit of time, but you know what? It's fun. You get the mitzvah, and it tastes amazing. So here's what I want to do. You ready for this? I'm going to read to you Leah's recipe. Wow, I got a whole method here. Buckle up. If you want to take notes, you can. Type notes, you can. Write notes, you can. If you want it afterwards, email me, and I will send it to you. I'll forward it to you. Okay, 5 pounds of flour minus 1 cup. So you buy a bag of 5 pounds of flour. By the way, typically we buy the bread flour. There's different types of flour, all-purpose flour. We typically buy the bread flour. So 5 pound bag of flour, take 1 cup out of the flour. The next thing you need is 1.5 cups of sugar, 2 tablespoons of salt, 1 1/3 cups of oil, 4 eggs, I may be going faster, 4 cups of warm water, 4 tablespoons of yeast, and 1 tablespoon of sugar. What you do then is you mix the yeast, warm water, and 1 tablespoon. I'll send this to you afterwards, all right? Just email me, I'll send it to you. I'm just going to describe it just so you can hear it. You mix the yeast, warm water, and 1 tablespoon of sugar. You set aside until it bubbles. That's the magic. In a big bowl, you mix the flour, sugar, and salt. Then add oil, eggs, and yeast mixture. Mix well, knead, cover, and let rise for 1.5 hours. Oof. Then you shape and braid. You leave to rise again for a half hour. Paint with egg wash. You put toppings, either sesame, za'atar, everything bagel, sauteed onions, whatever you want, or nothing. Bake at 375 for 30 to 40 minutes till golden brown. And the bracha is after the rising, before the shaping. So after the first rise, before you shape it, that's when you separate the challah. Boom. You will have delicious homemade challah. email me, text me, WhatsApp me, message me for that recipe and that method, because it's tremendous. So that's challah. Challah is a beautiful mitzvah. It's a delicious mitzvah. Reminds us of separating challah. Reminds us where our blessings really come from, and our acknowledgement and gratitude for those blessings. So there's a lot of good things about that. Now let's talk about more preparation. Cleaning our house. Again, the same concept is if you were having nice company over, you would probably do some tidying up. Sweep a little, put stuff away, set the table, do things nice. It's the same deal with our homes. We clean the house, we sweep, we vacuum, we make the beds, set the dining room table nicely, put out a tablecloth, traditionally a white tablecloth. We get the good dishes out there, the good tableware, the good glassware. Then let's talk about personal preparation. Company's coming over, fantastic, good. We make sure to have a shower or a bath. We cut the nails. We cut our nails. We cut our hair if we need to. Dress in nice Shabbat clothing, nice clothing. That's how we get ready for Shabbat. There are spiritual preparations as well. So many men have the custom of going to the mikveh, to the ritual bath every Friday afternoon before Shabbat. It's a time also before Shabbat to study additional Torah and to be a little bit more introspective and think about the things that we need to be doing as we enter Shabbat, things that we need to fix up from the past week, and things that we can do better in the coming week. So here's again the rule of thumb. Imagine what you would do if very important company, very special company was coming over, and then that's Shabbat. Shabbat is very special company coming over. I need to mention this because you often see this, not often. It's possible that this could happen, that people get stressed out in getting ready for Shabbat. It's possible that people can get stressed out. So here's what I want to say. Don't stress. Yes, we're meant to prep, but don't stress, because that's kind of counterproductive. The whole point of Shabbat is peace and serenity and togetherness. If we're in a state of hostility, animosity, if our tempers are short and the tension is high, then that's the opposite of the peaceful and loving and beautiful Shabbat spirit that we're trying to inculcate. It's hard to go from this high pressure environment into a state of serenity, although it's possible, but it's really not setting the stage in the proper way, and it's not getting off to the right foot. I heard a beautiful interpretation of the verse that says, Lo tevaru eish b'chol moshvatechem biyom haShabbat. The verse says, do not light fire, do not kindle fire in all your dwelling places on the day of Shabbat. Lo tevaru eish, do not light fire. The word for do not in Hebrew is lo. Lo means no, or don't. The way it's spelled is lamed aleph, which numerically, the gematria, the numerology of that is 31. Lamed is 30 and aleph is 1. 31. There's a non-literal interpretation that says the following. For the 31 hours of Shabbat, I'm going to explain in a moment. For the 31 hours of Shabbat, do not light any fires. No anger, no hostility. What are the 31 hours of Shabbat? 25 hours of Shabbat, as famously Shabbat begins. Like this week, for example, it begins probably 8:25 and ends about 9:25. So Shabbat is about 25 hours long, plus the 6 hours before that you're preparing. So no fires, no hostility, no anger, no screaming, no shouting, no yelling. Take it easy, take it easy. Prepare, but don't let it get the better of you. Don't let it get the better of you. I've heard this said in regards, in relation to Passover, right? Passover prep, sometimes people get very stressed out. They get very stressed out and very on edge. Understandable, it's a lot of preparation, but the line that goes around often is, listen, dirt is not chametz, so take it easy on the cleaning. And your children are not the carbon pesach, they're not the paschal offering. Don't sacrifice them, right? Don't go at. We have to prepare, but not get carried away, so to speak, in that experience. So getting back to Shabbat, it's meant to be a positive experience and not a negative experience. Now that we're prepared, so we've got things ready, the house is looking good. Personally, we're looking good, right? We're all ready, we're all cleaned up, we're all freshened up, ready for Shabbat. We did the shopping, we did the cooking. By the way, the menu, I haven't given you the menu. The menu's on your the menu is yours. I can suggest menus. Maybe I'll do that in a little bit. But you've done the shopping, you've done the cooking, you've done the preparing, the house is looking good, the table's set. All right, let's talk about Shabbat candles. Friday night approaches. Shabbat candles. Number one, why? What's this business of Shabbat candles? What are we doing? By the way, before we talk about Shabbat candles, or as I'm about to start, let me once again remind you, at any point in time, please unmute yourself and ask or clarify any questions. So let me check in any questions at all that anyone's wondering, points of clarification. Don't be bashful. Okay. I'm reading the chat here. Oh, very good. Here we go. Chat. Mark is writing. Oh, nice. Nice. Very cool. There are many ways, many places to get kosher from, including, Mark reminds me, including the co-op. There's a kosher co-op. You may know about it, you may not know about it. This is a way to buy kosher and get a lot of variety for relatively inexpensive if you're willing to buy a little bit more in bulk. It's called KC Kosher Co-op. KC like Kansas City. KC Kosher Co-op. KC KOSHER COOP. KC Kosher Coop.com. Google it. Go there to the website. Set up an account. It's free to set up an account. And what you can do is you can find out the next time the truck is coming to Atlanta. You can order. Again, it's pretty inexpensive. You can order typically by the case or whatever it is. You can see how it works, and they let you know when it's coming. You go pick it up and enjoy. So they sell challah as well on that co-op order, so you can get it there. Mark is also reminding me that flour and yeast are hard to find nowadays, which is true. I looked for it. I mean, I found it, but it's not easy. Those shelves are typically much more empty than usual. In fact, because of this, I may have mentioned this before. I don't think, maybe I didn't. Did I tell you guys that I started creating my own bread starter? Did I mention that? Yes? Maybe in a different class or this class? Okay. Yeah. So I started. It flopped. It flopped so badly. Oh my gosh. I was so excited. First 3 days, it's bubbling. It's doing the whole thing. 4 days in, 5 days, it's supposed to really kick in. Boom. Nothing. No movement. DOA, baby. Done. What are you going to do? I tried. I'm going to get back into the saddle. Don't worry. I haven't given up. I've gotten into other things. I'm going to get back to it. So, again, great point, and something to think about if you're looking to make your own challah. If you need flour or yeast, then, I'm sure we can collaborate and figure that out. Let me look back at the chat because I saw something else. Oh, Sandrine mentions Jamie Geller. Yes. Jamie Geller, who is a famous kosher cook, kosher chef, has written kosher cookbooks. She has a kosher cooking demo that you can watch and enjoy. I will tell you, speaking about food, because this is a great topic. Who doesn't like talking about food? I mean, listen, maybe you, but me, I don't mind talking about food. So here's the deal. I'll tell you what a typical Shabbat menu is by us. Okay, you ready? You can think about this as you think about shopping and as you think about also cooking. Typical Shabbat menu. We're gonna get into these details. Don't worry. We start off with Kiddush. Oh, 1 second. David is asking, how large of a challah do you need? For the mitzvah, are the frozen large challahs enough? There's no size, as long as it's more than kazayit, the size of an olive, or kabetz, the size of an olive, you're fine. You don't need, it could be a small challah roll, like a small little dinner roll. Pretzel roll, right? Sandrine, thank you for the pretzel rolls, right? So you can get any type of roll. Joy.
So my question is I heard your recipe or minus 1 cup with a loaf of challah. I mean, that loaf of challah would last me for the next month. That makes like 8. Cut the recipe in half, or can you quarter it? How much do I need to set aside to make the mitzvah?
That's a good question. Leah knows that. I should know that also, but I'm sure Leah knows that like immediately. I believe you pretty much need almost that full amount to do the mitzvah. I'm pretty sure you need a pretty decent sized dough to say the bracha. I don't have the exact quantity. I'm going to reach out one more time. Hold on.
I think it's in your
Oh, is it in the handout?
In the PDF, yeah.
Look at that.
Think it's also 5 pounds. That's why I was asking.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna make 5 pounds, especially nowadays.
Yeah. So if it's that very well may be the case that it's that it is a 5 pound experience. Let's see. Challah back. Let's see what we have here. Where's my challah? For some reason I'm not finding it here. Okay. Maybe it's here. Maybe I'm missing it. Very possible that I'm missing it. 2 loaves. How? Okay. Clearly I am missing it in this PDF. But baking challah. No, it is here. Here we go.
Yeah, it is there. It says at least 43 ounces of wheat, rye, barley, oat, or spelt flour.
43 ounces, yes. Okay, so that's a lot. It's a big batch. And that's why the question was, should you make a bigger batch and then freeze it for later, for future weeks? Or just do what you need and not do the mitzvah? My thought is go big and then freeze. You can even make the loaves. I would say.
So if you freeze it, I mean, what do you do? Do you take part of that amount out each time you unfreeze
No,
it?
my suggestion. No, my suggestion is
You're
that you.
just making the mitzvah once for that big loaf.
Yeah, no, but my suggestion is.
Off of it the rest of the month or whatever.
My suggestion is that you make multiple loaves. You do the mitzvah, and then you make all the loaves, and then you wrap them in whatever in freezer safe material. Freeze the loaves. That's what we do. Freeze the loaves. In other words, bake all the loaves. 8 loaves, 10, however many loaves you get. You can braid it different ways. Make all your loaves. That's what I would suggest. Then you freeze it, the loaves that you don't use, and then you defrost them. When we do it, the defrosted challah, if you freeze it freshly baked, it tastes stunning. It tastes stellar. It's fantastic. It tastes super fresh. It's a baking life hack. I mean, it tastes really, really fresh. Especially when you use it the next week or down the line, you can put it in the oven before Shabbat a little bit to get warm. Oh, are you kidding me? It's like freshly baked. You can't tell the difference. So it's really tremendous. Okay, so that's what the challah. Look, a go-to menu by us would look something like, you get your kiddush, your wine or grape juice, preferably wine, but if not wine, you can use grape juice. Then we'll talk about that, the significance of that. Then we have the 2 loaves of challah. We'll talk about why 2 loaves and a little bit more about challah a little bit later. And then you would have an opening course. This is a traditional Ashkenazi type Shabbat meal. You would have your opening course, a fish course, either gefilte fish or salmon or some sort of fish, salads, maybe some dips, multiple salads and other stuff. Then you would have a soup course. Chicken matzo ball soup comes to mind as a classic Jewish Friday night soup. Then you would have a main course consisting of whatever you enjoy for a main course, whether it's meat, chicken, whether it's something else that's fish or something else that's vegetarian, whatever it is, you can have that for your main course, followed by dessert. So usually it's about a 4-course meal. Every time I have people over, I always caution by the first course, which is usually a very large course. I usually mention that this is the first of 4 courses, so pace yourself accordingly, or don't pace yourself and throw caution to the wind, like I do, right? Listen, come what may. That's what it is. What it is. But I mean, that's the reality. It's usually a lavish meal. Now let's talk about Shabbat candles. So we bought, we shopped, we prepped, we cleaned, we prepared, we're dressed, everything's set. Now next, Shabbat candles. So first of all, why? Why Shabbat candles? The world began with light. In the beginning, God created light and darkness. The world begins with light. So, Shabbat begins with light. It's a good thing. Also, the sages instituted the notion of lighting Shabbat candles. Think about it. This was instituted thousands of years ago. There wasn't electricity. And, if you didn't have fire, if you didn't have light Friday night, it's going to be a little bit dark, a little bit depressing, a little bit awkward. You're going to bump into things, trip over things. Maybe you'll hurt yourself, God forbid, and you'll have a miserable Shabbos. That's not good. That's not good for anyone, right? So who needs that? I don't need that. You don't need that. So have some lights burning. Now the trick is you're not supposed to light or extinguish fire on Shabbat. So the candles have to be lit before Shabbat, and you have to let them burn until they burn out, which is why the Shabbat candle holders were invented. You ever see the Shabbat candle holders? Those little foil things? With a little thing to hold the candle and a little umbrella situation for the wax? That's such a Jewish invention. Because who else lets candles burn all the way down? Who in their right mind? You burn candles, you put them out like normal people. No, Jews are burning them down Friday night. It's going all the way down. Boom, 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 boom. Not letting it stop. So you got to have some separation between your fire and whatever's under there. Hence, the old disposable foil situations. Brilliant mind, brilliant creative minds that came up with that. Listen, here's the deal. You want to light your Shabbat candles, and you might ask the question, well, why? But today we have electricity. So you're not going to bump into anything anyway. Leave the lights on. Who needs candles? What is this business? A few points. Number one, you ever hear of a candlelight dinner? Yeah? Why candlelight dinner? You have light bulbs? Because candlelight is candlelight. It's beautiful. It's nice. Light. Gives off a different light. It's not artificial. It's the real thing. Right? It's got something to it. Also, it's tradition. Tradition, we stick with tradition. I'm not going to sing it. We stick with tradition. I just did. We stick with tradition. So, candles. Another point. The light of Shabbat is supposed to be unique. It's a special light that we light on Shabbat. If you keep your lights on, it's not special. It's the normal lights. Thursday night, you also have your light in your dining room on. And Sunday night and Monday night and Tuesday night and Wednesday night also. How do you show that it's special for Shabbat? You light something else. So, we light Shabbat candles. It's a rabbinic mitzvah. We say a blessing. The way it works is, as you of course know, is you're supposed to light it before sunset. Because once sunset arrives, Shabbat begins. Once Shabbat begins, not supposed to light fire. So we light it before sunset. Traditionally, in many communities, it's 18 minutes before sunset. In fact, if you look at most, or many, if not most, if not all, Jewish calendars here in the States, for Shabbat candle lighting times, that will not be sunset. That will be 18 minutes before sunset. So get your local Chabad calendar and look at it. And it says light candles, at or before 8:25, let's say. That's not sunset. That's 18 minutes before sunset. But don't wait. This is the buffer, chai buffer, baby. The life, right? 18 minutes of buffer, lighted by candle lighting. That is when the mitzvah is done in the most beautiful way. The lights, the candle, you can light it before the 18 minutes, by the way, but don't do it before an hour and a quarter before sunset. Because otherwise, you're just lighting a candle on Friday at that point. If you light it way too early, if you light it at 3 p.m., kind of mark it, time it like that. It's a good way to do it. And it's supposed to stay lit, ideally, all the way through the meal. You can get different size candles. You can use different material candles and different types of wax. You can use oil. They sell these beautiful, candelabra things with oil in it. It's paraffin or whatever they use. We use the wax candles, but I've seen many people use oil. It's beautiful. It doesn't matter. You can use whatever you want as long as it burns nicely. And pretty much all candles today are burning nicely. Okay, who's supposed to light? The mitzvah is for men and women. But traditionally, this is a mitzvah that is for women. There are mitzvahs that are for men and mitzvahs that are for women. There's, it's mitzvahs for the young, mitzvahs for old, different mitzvahs, different things. For Kohanim, for Leviim, for Yisraelim, for Israelites, different mitzvahs, different folks. The mitzvah of lighting Shabbat candles traditionally is the mitzvah of the woman. And it's traditionally for women over the age of majority, i.e. bat mitzvah 12. However, many have the custom that even from a much younger age, girls should start lighting their own Shabbat candles with the help, of course, of their mother or a parent, safety first. But even from the youngest age, or not, even from the young age of 3, that's an appropriate time to begin training and teaching this beautiful mitzvah. And it really is a beautiful mitzvah. So here's the deal. None of this is the obligation, but this is, many have the custom to light even at young ages 3, certainly above bat mitzvah age, above 12, and then continue lighting throughout life. Many have the custom, again custom, to light 1 candle when single, 2 when married, and add 1 for each child. So that way, when, let's say, the mother of the house is lighting Shabbat candles on Friday night, you have 1 candle for each member of the family. 1 for her spouse, for her kids, and then you have 1 candle per person. And what a beautiful declaration. Friday night, as everyone gathers around the table for the candle lighting and then the meal, to see that your light is represented, that your light is shining brightly in your home. You know, imagine each child saying, "Oh, look, I have a candle. I'm represented. My light matters. My light is my light. If I wasn't born, that light wouldn't be lit." It's a very, very, it's subtle, but it's super powerful, right? If you were, God forbid, if you weren't here, if I was, right, that light wouldn't be lit. But I am here, and I do have a light, and that's representing my light. We light candles to represent bringing more light into the world. We live in a dark world. The world is dark enough. The least we can do is keep on lighting more light, of course, metaphorically. And Shabbat, Eve, it becomes manifest in our physical environments to illuminate our own homes and our own dinner tables. Now, we typically light near the dinner table. Use a metal tray or some fireproof. Resistant doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound good enough. Fireproof tray. Why? I'm going to tell you in a moment something important that why it can't be flammable, and I'll tell you why. We use a fireproof tray. Put it near or on the table. On the middle of the table, if that's too hectic because you're going to be passing food around and whatever, and it's going to get knocked over. So then put it next to the table, on another table, but within sight, the line of sight of the table. That's the way it's supposed to be done. How do we do it? So step by step, number 1 is before candle lighting, we give tzedakah. Have a tzedakah box there, give some charity. Because we give tzedakah every day, not on Shabbat. When do we give for Shabbat? We give before Shabbat. Right before Shabbat, you give and have in mind this is for Shabbat. We do it dressed in our Shabbat clothes, in our Shabbat finest. We then light the candles. How do we light the candles? Light a match or one of those little... No, let's talk about matches. You light a match, strike a match, and then you light the candles, but you don't extinguish the match. You don't blow out the match. You don't even wave out the match. The custom is, we don't, even from this point on, we don't want to extinguish fire. So you just take the match lit and you place it on your metal tray. Don't come at me with a wooden tray here, folks. This is not going to be healthy. Come at me with a metal tray. You gently put the match, well, carefully, don't burn your fingers either. Put the match down, let the match burn out safely on the tray. You don't want to extinguish from the time that you light your Shabbat candles. Right, you have a match, you're going around lighting your Shabbat candles. Right? 1 candle, 2, 3, 4, whatever, however many you're lighting. Right? You light the candles, don't blow out or extinguish the match, drop it. Let it go out on its own. At that point, candles are lit. You wave your hands 3 times over the candles safely. Cover your eyes and say the blessing, Lahadlik Ner Shel Shabbat Kodesh, the blessing over lighting the candles. We say it's a mitzvah, even though it's a rabbinic mitzvah, but of course, as you know from previous classes, rabbinic mitzvot are legislated by Torah. Torah allows the sages to enact mitzvot, and therefore this mitzvah has the weight of a biblical commandment as well. The biblical commandment, which is to listen to the rabbinic commandments, including the commandment, they have 7 rabbinic mitzvot. One of them is the mitzvah of lighting Shabbat candles, Shabbat and holiday, Yom Tov candles. At the point when the blessings are recited, the custom is to keep the eyes covered. We then recite a personal blessing, personal prayers. It's a very important time, a very spiritual time to connect with our families and think about what it is that we need and what it is that they need. And at that point, we uncover the eyes and we enjoy the light from the Shabbat candles. And of course, at that point, we say Shabbat Shalom and smile for our loved ones, with our loved ones. One important thing to mention: if there are no women in the house, right, then light, right? Then men should light. So, for example, if I'm traveling, or if Leah is out of town, right? So I will light the Shabbat candles myself. Why? Because it's a mitzvah to have the Shabbat candles lit in the home where you are. And so if there's a woman there, so then again, it's a mitzvah specifically, it's tradition that the women light. But if there are no women in the house, then men light. That's the way it is. Okay, makes sense? Any questions or clarifications on Shabbat candles? No? Good? Okay. Let's continue. Kabbalat Shabbat. After candle lighting, we now have a special set of prayers. These prayers are are known as Kabbalat Shabbat. So every evening, we spoke about this in a previous session. We spoke about this actually last week about prayers. There are 3 daily prayers: the morning prayer, the afternoon prayer, and the evening prayer. And the evening prayers are pretty much a standard set of prayers, but on Friday night we add a preamble to the prayers. 16091. Let me see if I can pull this up. HebrewBooks.org. Yep, look at this. I'm pulling up the Siddur, the same Siddur PDF that I pulled up last week, so that we can go through this together and follow along a little bit as we go through it. Okay, I'm pulling up. That is not nearly where we need to be. Give me a moment here while I pull this up, and then soon I'm going to share my screen. We can all jump in this together. Okay. I don't know why this is. Oh, I know why. This prayer book, the PDF, has yeah, that's why. It's got the English as well and the Hebrew. Okay, I'm about to share my screen with you. So the way it works is like this. Friday night service, again, we add on to it at the beginning, and we say special psalms to introduce the Ma'ariv or Arvit prayers. 6 special psalms from the book of Psalms that correspond to the 6 days of the week. So, take a look at what I'm about to share with you. If you have a prayer book, that's fantastic. You can do it, you can follow along. If you have it, you can follow along at home. It's page 154 in the Chabad Blue Prayer Book. It starts with the Psalm L'chu Nirana L'Hashem. Can I make this smaller? Yeah, let's make these pages smaller. Might be a little hard to read, but we're not going to exactly read it word for word. Just want to show you the 6 Psalms. So L'chu Nirana, Shir L'Hashem, okay, then here's going to be this will be the English of that. Okay, then we have the next page. We have another few: Hashem Malach, Mizmor Shir. Again, all of these are psalms. Again, they correspond to one day of the week, one day respectively of the past week: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We have in the English. These prayers, these psalms talk about God's sovereignty over nature. It talks about the theme of joy. It talks about, a future time, Mashiach. Wonderful themes to think about. Hashem Malach. Okay, here, and then Mizmor LeDavid, and this is number 6. 6 psalms, 6 days of the week. What's interesting is as follows. The numerology of the first letters of each of these 6 psalms, if you take the Hebrew letters of these 6 psalms, these 6 prayers, and it's hard to do on this PDF. I apologize. Again, I'm on a browser now. I don't have the file downloaded, whatever. So it's a little bit not as smooth as I would have liked, but take my word for it. Take the 6 psalms before the Lichadodi, the song to the Shabbat Queen, which we'll speak about in a moment. Take those 6 psalms, take the first letters of those psalms, add up the numerology, and it totals 430. Why is that number significant? Well, 430 just happens to be, of course it doesn't just happen to be, but it happens to be the numerical value of the word nefesh, which means soul, which reminds us of a famous teaching about Shabbat, that on Shabbat, we all have a little extra soul. We have a little bit of extra oomph, little extra spirit in our step, or spirit in our spirits, soul in our spirits. And that is alluded to, that is hinted to in these 6 psalms and their first letters, which equal the number 430, which is the numerology of nefesh. The 6th psalm has, this one that it's highlighted right here, has God's name 18 times. 18, of course, is Chai, which is life. It talks about God's voice, Kol Hashem, God's voice, 7 times, corresponding to the 7 days of the week where God spoke with God's voice. And that was 7 days of creation. It happened through God's articulation of speech. So that again these are some of the secrets of the prayers. Now, after the 6 prayers, 6 psalms for the 6 days of the week, right after that, we then, before we do the song for Shabbat, which is the 7th, we add another special song. And you all know it, we all know it. It is the Lecha Dodi, one of the most famous Jewish prayers, one of the most sung Jewish prayers. I'll sing a famous tune, Lecha Dodi, lekrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela, Lecha Dodi lekrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Here we go. Here's the Lecha Dodi. It's written stanza by stanza. There are multiple stanzas. It talks about greeting the Shabbat queen or the Shabbat bride. It refers to Shabbat in the feminine. Kabbalah explains, very important, that Shabbat is the feminine energy of the week. You know, the 6 days we're trying to conquer and force and do, and it's very much an outward experience. It's an outward-oriented experience, which is more aligned with the masculine energy. Again, this is not men, women, but it's masculine, feminine energies. The masculine energy is that more conquering, outgoing, if you will, energy. Feminine energy is nurturing and cultivating. It's about the beauty within, and that is what Shabbat is all about. Shabbat is always referred to in the feminine. This song right here, Lecha Dodi, one of the most famous Jewish prayers, was composed by a Kabbalist in the 1500s. It's not that old. It was composed by a Kabbalist in the 1500s whose name was Shlomo Alkabetz. Shlomo Halevi Alkabetz. Wouldn't you know it? He coded his own name into the prayer for everyone to see. If you notice in the Hebrew, I'm keeping up the Hebrew just in case. I wanted to point this out, which I do. He encoded his name. If you look at the first letters of the stanzas, it spells, I don't know why it snapped back on me, it spells the word, it spells his name, Le, which means to, Shlomo. Read it straight down, the bolded letters. Le Shlomo, which means to Shlomo. Means he's dedicating it in a sense to himself. Le Shlomo, and then if you keep on going, let me hit next here, and next again. PDF in the web browser, and then you're going to see it's going to say Halevi. The Shlomo Halevi. Hey Lamed Vav Yud Halevi. That was his name, Shlomo Halevi, Shlomo the Levite. His last name was Alkabetz, but Shlomo Halevi. So his name is encoded and enshrined in the Lecha Dodi prayer. It speaks of mystical things. It speaks about Shabbat. I find it fascinating and amazing how even in communities or synagogues that don't study Kabbalah or don't talk about Kabbalah, they're all singing Lecha Dodi, which is a Kabbalistic composition. It's not from the Book of Psalms. It's not from the ancient prayer liturgy. It's something composed by a Kabbalist in Sfat and Safed, Israel, in the 1500s, but it's become so widespread and so beloved that it's in a synagogue near you, coming soon, or It's already come to a synagogue near you. That is the power of this prayer. And right after this prayer, the final stanza, of course, is Bo'ei v'Shalom. Okay, and after this, again, I'm doing it in the Hebrew, is Mizmar Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, which is the song for Shabbat. After we did, see if I can get the next page here and pull up the English. After we did the 6 prayers for the weekdays, and after we did the Lechadodi to introduce the Shabbat Queen, at that point we say this last paragraph here, which is a song for the Shabbat day. That is Psalm number 7, corresponding to Shabbat. So we do 6 Psalms, Lechadodi intro to this, and then the song for Shabbat day. After this, we then go into Ma'ariv, into the typical, into the evening, to the nightly service. Okay, so this is all what we call Kabbalat Shabbat, which means preparing for Shabbat. After the prayers, if we're in synagogue, we would walk home. If we're at home, because there's no synagogue at this point, it's starting to open, but not fully. So if we're at home, then we just walk from, into the next room maybe, or make a few steps. So the house is ready, the table's ready, everything's set beautifully, everything is sparkling and shining. We're ready for the meal, and we're ready for the meal with lots of love and lots of joy. We start the meal with the traditional Shalom Aleichem. We say a prayer, we say a blessing, we talk about the angels. Why do we talk about the angels suddenly? Who's talking about the angels? Why are we mentioning the angels? It's a good question. Angels accompany us on Friday evening from synagogue or from our prayers to our meal, because it's a day of heightened spiritual celebration, and the angels want to be part of it. When the angels come in with us into our homes or into our dining rooms and see what's going on, if it's beautiful, the angels will say, "May it be like this next week." And that's the blessing. So we want to get on that good train of blessings. So we try to make sure that everything is beautiful and everything is ready to roll. There are 4 stanzas into the tune, Shalom Aleichem Malachei HaShareis. By the way, that traditional song, that traditional tune that we sing, was composed in the early 1900s by a cantor in America, I believe. In 1918, I think it comes from 1918. So it's not even that old, but it's the classic tune. Yeah, we got it right. Who doesn't love that classic tune? It's phenomenal. There are 4 stanzas. Each one is repeated 3 times. The 4th stanza says, how does it start? Seitchem l'shalom, which is bidding them farewell. And the question is, why are we sending the angels home? Bye, angels. Seitchem l'shalom. Have a good trip. See you next fall. No, I'm kidding. Have a good departure. Why are we social distancing the angels so soon? Why not invite them in to stay for the meal? So many commentaries have many different understandings of it, but there's a beautiful, beautiful answer that's given in the good books that says the angels want to be part of this holy experience. But when it comes time to actually eat the meal, that's our intimate time, if you will, with God. That's our one-on-one time. No angels invited. So the angels, they're along for the ride for a little bit, but when things are getting serious, when we're about to start the meal, see ya. It's nice having you, but gotta run. We have a date with God. Just us and God. It's a very special time. So that is regarding the Shalom Aleichem. The next thing we do is we sing a prayer called Eshet Chayil, which speaks of the woman of valor. It's from one of King Solomon's works. Some say that King Solomon penned it, wrote it in tribute to his mother, and some say that it actually was, although it was published by King Solomon, it's actually a song or a poem written by Abraham to his wife Sarah to eulogize her upon her passing. He wrote it as a eulogy, some say, to his wife Sarah. There's a traditional tune that's sung by many communities. Eshetcha yomiyim tzaverachok mipninim michra. It's a multiple stanza, multiple paragraph song that speaks of the woman of valor in praise of the woman of valor's qualities. She's strong, she's confident, she's successful, she's modest, she's taking care of business and working overtime, whatever. She's doing everything. She's incredible, a superwoman, if you will. And it's a beautiful expression of gratitude that the men typically sing to the women at the Shabbat meal. It's beautiful. Again, the feminine energy is very strong and alive. Shabbat, especially Friday night. Of course, Shabbat's all about peace in the home. It's all about peace and tranquility. No better way to get the peaceful meal started than by singing the praises of one significant other, right? I mean, that's good form. That's good form in setting the stage for a very loving and peaceful Shabbat experience. Okay, let's talk about Kiddush. We're going to go through a few more things very quickly. Kiddush is a declaration of the sanctity of Shabbat to get the meal started. The Ten Commandments says Zachar et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho, which means remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. But Zachar is also related to the word Lizkar, which means not only to remember but to mention. The word Zachar also could mean to mention, verbally articulate. So we're not just supposed to mentally remember Shabbat, we're also meant to verbalize Shabbat. So we start with a Kiddush. The Kiddush has the first stanza, is from the book of Genesis about Shabbat and God resting. And then we segue straight into the blessing of the wine. And then there's one more paragraph in blessing, thanking God for giving us this special day for us to enjoy. The biblical verses, the blessing over the wine, the gratitude, and then you drink the wine. But wait, what kind of wine? Ideally, we use red wine, something that we enjoy. If not wine, then grape juice. Take a cup, 3 ounces, at least 3 ounces. Not a mini cup, not a shot cup, but a bigger cup, 3 ounces. Not a lot, but 3 ounces at least. Overflow, pour, the Chabad custom, overflow it. Pour it so it spills over. Yeah, why? Because this represents blessings. You want your blessings to be like just like right under the thing, or you want your blessings to be overflowing that you don't know what to do with them? Latter. You're in Vegas. I love my Vegas analogies. You're in Vegas. You're playing the slot machine. Yeah, you hit. You want it to have. You want the coins. You want just enough to fill your cup to come out, or you want it spilling everywhere? I know what you're going to say. You want it spilling everywhere. Get the wine. It doesn't have to spill everywhere, but just make sure it overflows a little bit, spills over the edge, and then you pick it up, hold it in your right hand if you're righty, left hand if you're lefty, right hand if you're righty. I'm a righty, so I'm going to do my right hand. Say the opening paragraph. Say the blessing over the wine. Say the gratitude blessing. Take a seat. Drink the wine, at least half of the cup to drink, and then you share it with others that listen. Not everyone has to make Kiddush or has to recite the Kiddush themselves. You can say it and have others in mind. They just say Amen to the blessings, and then they drink. They're supposed to take a sip from the wine and to be part of that mitzvah. So that is a little bit about the Kiddush. It sanctifies it. It brings it into a enjoyable place with the wine or grape juice. Also, wine is related to secrets. It says, Nichnas yayin yatsa sod. When wine comes in, the secrets go out. Yeah, you ever hear somebody after they've had a few l'chaims? Oh, very talkative. People are very talkative after that. So the Talmud says, Nichnas yayin yatsa sod. When wine comes in, secrets go out. In fact, the numerology of yayin, Yud Yod Nun is 70. Sod, Samach Vav Dalet, secrets is also 70. Because wine is secrets. On Friday night, we want to reveal the secret. What secrets? No, not about something that happened 20 years ago that you're looking to load off your chest. No. That's not what we're talking about. We have a cup of wine and we start revealing the secrets, the secret of the universe. Where does this come from? It comes from God. God remains a little bit incognito. God remains a secret sometimes. Our job is to blow the roof off that secret, to reveal the truth of God's control and God's sovereignty. Next, very quickly, we're about to close this out, so give me 2 more minutes. Challah. We spoke about making challah. I'll send you the challah recipe as well. But when it comes to challah, very, very important. 2 loaves at each Shabbat meal. Why 2? To remind us of the ancient food that fell from heaven, the manna. In the times of the desert, when the Jews left Egypt, God gave them food from heaven. And the way it worked is every day they got food, but not on Shabbat. So on Friday they got 2 portions, one for Friday, one for Shabbat, to commemorate the double portion of food. Back in the day, we have a double loaf of bread, or 2 loaves of bread, 2 loaves of challah. So have 2 loaves, whole loaves, don't cut them, 2 loaves, and then say the blessing and cut them, and we'll talk about that process in a second. But you know the process pretty much. After the Kiddush, immediately go wash your hands in the sink 3 times on one hand, 3 times on the next hand. Lift up your hands. We already went through this when we, lesson 2. Say the blessing, rub your hands, dry your hands, come back to the table, take a knife, score the top of the bread to kind of like, it's like the pre-putt before the putt. I don't putt up here, but I can't, leverage. So, you score the top of the challah, a slight little line. Then you say the blessing, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. You cut the first slice. The one who says the blessing dips it into salt, eats the first piece, cuts more challah, dips it into salt 3 times, gives it to everybody else. That is the mitzvah of eating the challah. Now, it reminds us of the manna from heaven. We have a double portion, like that double manna. Why? Just like that food came from God, all of our food comes from God. Even though we may think it comes from the money that we earned, and it comes from the grocery store, or it comes from the wherever it comes from, the bottom line is it's a blessing from God. And we eat a double portion of bread to remind us of the manna from heaven, where it was clear where that one came from. No one could convince themselves that they found or they made or they earned that bread, that food from heaven. That came strictly from God. Our food today also, maybe it takes a few more stops along the road, in natural containers, but the bottom line is everything ultimately comes from God. And we're reminded of that, especially on Shabbat, when, if we stop working, somebody might say, well, how am I going to earn money? Trust in God. God will provide. God provided food then. God provides food now. Take it easy. God has big shoulders. You can rely on God. God is trustworthy. So that's why Friday night, especially Shabbat day, on Shabbat, we have 2 loaves to remind us of God's blessings and God's protection. Okay. After the challah, of course, we go into the meal. I gave you my typical menu structure. Fish and salad course, soup course, main course, and then dessert. That's my typical structure. Some people have less courses. Some people may have more. Some people vary various items around. Do whatever you want. But 2 things that the Talmud mentions, 2 types of food to eat, or to keep in mind, to consider eating: fish and meat. Fish is considered to be something, important or something valuable. So is meat. If you don't like fish or meat, then eat whatever you like. But these are 2 things that are traditionally mentioned in Talmudic sources and other places. Also, fish. The Hebrew word for fish is dag, not D-O-U-G, but I don't know, D-A-G, whatever, dag, dalab, gimel. The numerology of that is 7, 7th day of the week. It's Shabbat, of course, so there's numerology there as well. Fish also have their eyes open all the time. Positive eye, no evil eye, right? We want a positive eye, not an evil eye. Fish don't require much preparation to be kosher. You don't have to slaughter it, whatever, just pull it out. And if kosher fish is kosher, represents things that are pure. Things that are holistically pure without any preparation. On Shabbat, we're meant to be in that state of holistically pure. One final point I want to mention about gefilte fish, and with this we'll close it out. There's a tradition that many have to eat gefilte fish. Why gefilte fish? And what is gefilte fish? Gefilte means filled fish. They would take back in the day fish, clean it up, take out the insides, all that stuff, prepare it, add additives, not chemical additives, but like other things like breadcrumbs and spices and carrots and other types of things, blend it together, mush it together, and put it back and cook it or bake it in the skins of the fish. Gefilte fish, filled fish. You're filling up the skin with the fish batter, if you will, this prepared fish combo. Today, it's not cooked or baked in a fish skin. It's there's other ways. Sometimes it comes in a jar, in jelly. But if you want to get the more fresh stuff, you buy frozen loaves of fish. I talked about this when I did the cooking demo a few weeks ago. Buy a frozen loaf from Kroger, from Publix, from Spicy Peach, from Kosher Gourmet, from Casey Kosher Co-op by the case. However you buy it, get a loaf of frozen gefilte fish. You can boil it, take off the plastic on the outside. You can boil it in the paper. You can bake it in a baking dish, taking it out of the paper. You can fry it, cut it up and fry it. However you want to do it, prepare it. Either way, gefilte fish is amazing. It's traditional. It's traditional for a few reasons. Number one, it stretches the fish, so you get more bang for your buck, which helped back in the day in the shtetl when they didn't have a lot of money to buy a lot of fish for a lot of people. So this was put in a lot of filler, so it stretches it. And the second point is it avoids the problem of eating fish that has bones. If you put out a whole fish, whole white fish or whatever it is, you're going to end up with bones in your fish, and you're going to have to pick out the bones. And picking out bones on Shabbat is problematic because you're not supposed to pick things out on Shabbat. Not supposed to. So in order to avoid that, don't have things with bones. Eating a steak with a bone is fine because you're cutting it off the bone. You're not pulling out the bone. Pulling out small bones from fish we're not supposed to do that on Shabbos. So better not to have a whole fish that has bones in it, like a white fish or whatever. It just creates problematic scenarios. So gefilte fish is good because it's already deboned or whatever it's called, or what the bones are out and it's ready to eat without any picking. So that's it. Why do we eat so well on a spiritual day? One might ask, if it's Shabbat, such a holy day, why are we eating? Well, two things. Number one, the soul is happy. Keep the body happy also, or else it's going to be nagging us. Oh, come on, I'm not happy. So keep the body well fed, and everyone will have an enjoyable experience. And number two, the second point is, if something is truly valuable, something is truly holy, then it should also affect the body. In other words, if something is truly meaningful, then it should go from spirit to matter as well and introduce that holiness into the physical realm as well. All right, that takes us to the end. I know it's a ton of information, and there's a lot more information that I wanted to share, thinking about sharing, but I gave you the main points. So I hope you're walking away with a sense, maybe a better sense, an enhanced sense of what the Friday night experience or what the Shabbat experience looks like, starting from preparing for Shabbat all the way through the Friday night meal, including, of course, making food and the prayers and the songs that we sing. Again, as much as I've shared tonight about Friday night and preparation for Shabbat, there is certainly many, many times more material that could be shared. But hopefully, this is a good start. Whether some of these things you're hearing for the first time, or maybe you know these things, but maybe I shared a little bit more spiritual insight. Either way, I hope you found tonight meaningful. Next week is our final session of Judaism at Home, and we're going to focus on the definition of work according to Jewish law. When we talk about not working on Shabbat, what does it mean? Right? What do we define as work? As well as we're going to look at the Shabbat day experience. From the morning of Shabbat to the night of Shabbat, when we conclude Shabbat with Havdalah, what does that look like? What are the traditions? What are the customs? And what does it mean? So I hope you enjoyed tonight. I hope you gained some additional insight into the rituals and also into the meaning of the rituals. I hope we made sense of some of the things that we do, why we do them. And I wish you a meaningful Shabbat. I know it's only Tuesday, but hey, it's never too early to prepare for Shabbat. Find something nice tomorrow.
Yom Shlishi Shabbat.
Sorry?
It's Yom Shlishi Shabbat.
Exactly. It's the third day on our way to Shabbat, exactly. Of course, I need to mention that this week, Shabbat is also a holiday, because the holiday of Shavuot begins Thursday night and Friday, and into Friday night and Shabbat, 2-day holiday. So Friday and Shabbat are holidays. So we have a double whammy this weekend. Shabbat and Shavuot.
So I have a question about that.
Sure.
So like lighting candles, I would need to light a candle like a 24-hour candle, because I can't light new flame on Shabbat, right?
Yes, excellent.
I need to do that Thursday night when I light the candles for Yom Tov for Shavuot.
Yes, so here's how you do it.
Okay.
Here's how you do it. Thursday night for candle lighting. Light your holiday candles. Okay? Hold on one second, I'm hearing some noise. Let me just mute some folks. Unmute yourself at any point. I just want to mute it just so the background noise is not so loud. So here's the deal. Thursday night, Shavuot, light your candles before the holiday begins. It's probably going to be around 8:25. Light the candles before then. Say the blessing. Before you say the blessing, before you light those candles, light a 24-hour candle, as you suggested. You light a 24-hour candle, then you light your holiday candles. Then you have a flame that's burning to the next night. From that pre-existing flame, you then take a match, transfer the fire to your Shabbat candles before candle lighting Friday night. That way you're not creating new fire, you're just transferring fire, which you're allowed to do on the holiday for Shabbat. I need to mention now also, because we're talking about the holiday. On the holiday, on Shavuot, and on other holidays, you are allowed to do a few things that you cannot do on Shabbat. One of the major things is cooking. You're allowed to cook on holidays for that day, for the holiday, but not on Shabbat. So you can cook Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday afternoon, but you can't cook on Shabbat. Even though it's a holiday, it doesn't override the Shabbat prohibition. So, but on holiday, you can cook. But it has to be a pre-existing flame. So if you want to use a stovetop, again, I'll let you decide the safety in your home with fires burning. But theoretically, you can keep a fire burning on your stovetop. And if you want to make, let's say, Rabbi Ari's fried gefilte fish Friday morning or for Friday lunch, keep that fire burning, theoretically. Get a frying pan, put it on, put some oil, chop the gefilte fish, good to go. You can do that on the holiday. Not a problem. You can cook a soup on the holiday, but again, you cannot introduce fire. You cannot create the fire. So that creates, it is what it is. You can keep the oven. You can also keep the oven on if you'd like. You can keep an oven on, if it doesn't have the 12-hour shut off like some ovens do. Many ovens nowadays, at least some ovens have a Shabbat mode to it for this reason, where you can set it on a timer when it should turn on and turn off. So if you have that, you can bake something, or cook something in the oven on the holiday. Again, not Shabbat, but on the holiday. So that's the one. There's another one which is carrying, in the public domain. But aside for carrying, the only other thing that you can do on Shabbat that you can do on holiday that you can't do on Shabbat is cooking. So, getting back to candles, you can transfer the fire, but you cannot introduce new fire on the holiday for the Shabbat candle. So the way to do it is light that 24-hour candle. Keep that fire burning. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning. Just the world was turning.
Do you have to eat dairy on Shabbat this year?
The custom is, excellent question. The custom is on Shavuot to eat dairy. If you noticed, I spoke a lot about fish and meat because the Talmud says, if you're having an elegant meal, at least back in that day, if you're having a nice meal, having nice company over, you're going to go for the good stuff. Fish, meat. Have things changed a lot? I don't think so. I think many fancy restaurants on their menu, many, not all, obviously, but many fancy restaurants, the most expensive restaurants, are going to have meat dishes and fish dishes. Go to on Shavuot, there's a custom to have a dairy meal, specifically a milk dairy meal. Why? Many, many, many reasons. There's a book that has 101 reasons why. So there are many reasons given. I'll give you a simple reason. On the day that we got the Torah, we also got the laws of kosher. And when we got the law on Shavuot, like 3,300 years ago, we got the laws of kosher. And to prepare kosher meat takes a few minutes. Takes a little bit. Takes maybe a few days even. You got to get the animals, you got to slaughter them properly, you got to salt and soak the meat, you got to get the blood out. It's a process. They got the laws of kosher. On that day, they couldn't eat meat. Are you with me on this? They didn't have time to eat meat. They didn't have any kosher meat. They just got the laws of kosher. They needed a few days. So what did they eat on that day? You guessed it, dairy. So in commemoration of that first Shavuot meal, I'm like doing air quotes forever, I don't know why, but on that first Shavuot meal, that original Shavuot, what did they eat? Dairy. So we eat dairy. Many, many, many other reasons given. Hints and numerologies and all that stuff. The Chabad custom is to have 2 meals. Obviously, Chabad custom goes like all the way. We have a dairy meal and a meat meal. After the dairy meal, you wait 1 hour and then you have a meat meal with different bread and different washing. You wash and you wash your hands to the bread, say the blessing after a meal, and then wash again and say another blessing after a meal. 2 separate meals. So we would do this on Shavuot day, like Friday, and on Saturday. We would do after the morning prayers, we would do a dairy meal. Get your cheesecake, get your blintzes, get all that good stuff in. Finish that meal, wait an hour, and then have a meat meal. Many people just have a dairy meal. Many people maybe have for breakfast, a little cheesecake to have, something, a taste. But if you want to know Chabad custom, 2 full meals. Knock yourself out. It's a holiday. Calories don't count. I don't know. I can't vouch for that, but that's what they say. Any other questions about the upcoming holiday or Shabbat or anything that we spoke about today? Bum, bum, bum. No? Okay. Good. Great to see you all. Okay, it's a few minutes past our time, so we'll close it out. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for sticking with me. And looking forward to seeing you soon. And of course, next week for the grand finale of Judaism at Home. Bye, everybody. We'll see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
A good Yom Tif. A good Yom
Thank
Tif.
you.
A meaningful
Good Yom
holiday.
Tov.
Enjoy the cheesecake wherever it may be found.
Yes.
All right. See you all.
Good night.
Take care. Good night.